All right, hello everyone, and welcome. It is Tuesday, February 20th, and we have reached week 4. We are kind of in the final and home stretch for the class, and we are going to, like we've done in our previous sessions, going to talk about some of the submissions that we had from week 3, and also discuss the new assignments for week 4. So in week 4 here, we are kind of trying to wrap everything up with the projects that you've been working on. We are going to create a description and overview of those projects. This week you will be creating a video capture of your music and your sounds working in both 2D platformer and Angry Bots. So hopefully you had success getting Wise up and working. I had a few people reach out, but it seemed generally that most people had success. And at this point, you should now hear your music and your sound effects working in game. And there might be, once you get the music working, there might reveal some tweaks and some changes that need to happen, either in how they play back, or the volume and the mix, or how the sounds layer together and transition. You really don't get a final sense of the full project until you hear it in game. So this week is all about creating a kind of final demo video that you can show off your work, show off your music and your sound effects working as they should, and playing back in the game. And these projects are yours to use in a portfolio or a demo reel. They are yours to distribute and show off. And however, if you need to show them off to friends and family or clients or future employers or anything like that, they are your projects to now demonstrate. So these video projects or video captures, you're going to want to show off your music in the best light as possible. So we'll dive into the new assignments for week 4. If you have any questions, either from one of the previous weeks or any of the assignments, or have any issues ongoing in the class, please reach out to me. This week is certainly the time we want to wrap everything up for the month and make sure that you have everything that you need to successfully complete the class. So I have a couple of submissions. Let's see. What did I want to bring up here? Where is it? There it is. So we had a couple of submissions. This is on FSO. This is the optional feedback and review assignment. So we had a couple of submissions here, and we're going to take a listen to those. We had 4 total submissions, and I have loaded them up here in Logic. And we're going to listen to them one at a time and take a look at the screenshot. And hopefully any of the response that I heard from the assignment was positive. People enjoyed this composition, hearing the sounds, and I really find that the chiptune composition kind of emphasizes the compositional aspect, since the sounds are so limited overall in their texture and modulation, and they just kind of are mostly solid waveforms. Then you really focus on the harmonic development, the melody changes, rhythmic variations, key changes, tempo changes, any of the kind of compositional tricks that you can pull out of the hat to make it a lot more interesting. So, as mentioned previously, faster, quicker phrases, more staccato notes, things that don't stick around too long because the sounds are not that interesting. So you really focus on the changes in development in the composition. This is a linear piece. It's not interactive. It doesn't need to layer. It doesn't need to loop. kind of a breather from the previous compositions that we've had in the month, and it's really focused on utilizing the restrictions of the early Nintendo system. So the restrictions were a limit of 4 simultaneous voices. So you could have more than 4 tracks, but only 4 of them playing at any one time. So you see that this one switches down here. So you could have many tracks as needed, just as long as you only had 4 notes play simultaneously, or 4 instruments. That is another aspect. One thing that we don't particularly hold directly to is monophonic sources, where everything in the original Nintendo system had to be monophonic, where that means you only play 1 note at a time, and you get 4 simultaneous notes or 4 simultaneous voices. Here we are a little bit relaxed on that, and we still allow chords and multiple simultaneous notes from the same instrument. So, so we have some multiple tracks here. We got 5 tracks with a change in the second half. Oops. Where'd that go? There we go. This one down here, we got 4 tracks with some changes throughout. On this one, looks like we've got 4 tracks to play. So you were required to use the provided instruments, the simple waveforms sampled from the original Nintendo and Famicom system. And you had to have drums. You have to have melody. Your melody should change at some point. The sound or the lead tone should change at some point. So you had a total of 4. That means one's drums, one's melody. You could have harmony and bass, or a counter melody and harmony or bass. How you actually kind of switched between the tracks was up to you. The sound set was limited on the original Nintendo, but it could switch between the available sounds very quickly. All right, so let's switch to the first one here. You can see who's who on the tracks laid out here. Let's listen to the first one. Screenshot. Over here. Cool. So it does actually loop. It does take a serious kind of fall back to the front overall, but great development throughout. I like the build-up. And then a solid melodic line through this section. Jump over here. And then everything kind of builds up towards the end. If it's intended to loop, I might say that it's a pretty strong drop-off, but we'll just turn off the loop. If that was the case, then I would put an ending on it, just kind of resolve it to a finale at that point. And yeah, it's a great use of the instrumentation. Like I said, a good melodic development through kind of the middle here, and solid change from where it starts to where it ends. Excellent. So let's bring up the screenshot here, just get that prepared. It's this one. Do this. All right. Excellent. All right, so some good energy through there. Good rhythmic variation. Kind of builds up from the start. The arpeggios. The arpeggios to start work very well. Kind of provide the harmony against the bass. And then a slight change there, and then it goes into kind of a part B. And then I really like how it kind of ends out. Everything builds up to a final peak and then ends. Kind of pitch ramp down at the very end. So great job, especially with the limitations that are provided. One thing that I find that works well is to create a piece that will highlight the composition in this style, and then at some point break into full instrumentation. Use as many tracks as you want. Use full instrument synths, everything that you need to kind of fill out the composition and show a theme and a melodic idea in this kind of limited space, and then kind of build it up into full orchestration. You could use orchestral instruments, synths, any other kind of palette that you want. All right. Let's go ahead and start the next one. right, let's go ahead and start this back up. Sorry, I'm feeling a bit under the weather, so I had to pause for a moment. Let's get this one started back. All right, so one of the first things that I notice is that there's a good melodic development and change over the course of the cue. The progression works well, but once it's established, kind of try to move away from the alternating two chords, kind of just going back and forth. Play through 16 bars or so, and then create a part B and create a change. I also feel that the drums are pretty constant all the way through, so some more rhythmic variation would also help that feeling of change. The melody kind of, at this register, kind of mixes in against the harmonic instrumentation. So you might want to move it up an octave. I know later on it goes up maybe even 2 octaves, and it definitely helps stick out a lot more in this kind of second half here. But again, the chord progressions maintaining the same, the rhythm is maintaining the same thing all the way through. So creating that variation to support the melody. The melody is the strongest thing that develops over the course of the entire piece. Then watch out for the end. Just does kind of cut off very suddenly. Let's see. It even cuts off kind of in the middle of a melodic idea. 3, 4. So, and then it drops back down the octaves. So yeah, I mean, it does loop rhythmically. You might want to watch out where it does start over there. Maybe bring the melody back down to where it starts at the front. So the main thing is watch the repetition of the harmonic progression and change up the drums to create that variation through the cue. All right, and let's try one more here. Very good. One thing I might warn against in the front, I'm a big fan, especially of stuff like this that is going to be a demo piece of something that's a linear piece. It's not meant to go on a game or loop anywhere. Always starting out very strong. Watch out for building up, because it might take somebody, they might not want to wait that long to get to the good parts. So hit them, unless this is kind of more song form, where you've got an intro and a verse and chorus and build and breaks and kind of stuff like that. So I'm typically more a fan of hitting strong in the very beginning and then kind of dying down from there and building back up again. Once the drums come in and all of the melodic instruments come in, basically here from wherever, somewhere around here to somewhere around here. Lots of activity, lots of good stuff happening in there, especially here. This sort of chromatic parallel movement works very well for these types of chiptune compositions. They would do very fast arpeggios and just move around with the chord changes to really get a sense of, I think it created a pretty good loop. Works out pretty well. So then then I like the change in the very end here. Again, that parallel movement, sometimes you hear parallel or major thirds kind of moving up together. And kind of parallel voices moving together, arpeggios, following chord changes. These are classic kind of tropes in this style of music or these kind of instruments. So, yeah, I think everything works out there. I would definitely start out strong. You do have some good changes. I like what you've also done with the bass and the kind of the, what does it do? It like opens and closes. Or maybe it's multiple voices playing together and it kind of gets louder. But interesting things in the changes overall. It just might be kind of restructuring the progression of the music. Right. So some good examples to check out. Hopefully this gives everybody else an idea of the kinds of things that to pay attention to in this composition, the kinds of things that we're listening for. Mainly it is about maintaining the restrictions, keeping the composition simple, but really kind of focused on the composition itself. Strong melody, strong harmonic changes, rhythmic variation. That's what's going to prevent these kind of compositions from getting stale or boring. So good things to work with. We're going to go ahead and turn it over to the archive for a discussion of the week 4 assignments. If you have any questions as we are wrapping up the month, please reach out and let me know. But other than that, I will see you again on Thursday. Thank you. So let's talk about the new assignments for week 4. And just point out a few things. All right, so actually, let me do this. Let me open up. We go on FSO. And load up week 4 here. There we go. Week 4. All right, so we have final game captures. Share your final game project captures. The virtual classes, and these composition description assignments. And the week 4 suggested reading and viewing. So, for your final game captures, you will be creating a capture of both 2D platformer and Angry Bots. This assignment is 0 weighted, but that doesn't mean that you're not doing the assignment because you're actually turning them in. Here's your video capture to your first question of the composition description. So while this is 0 weighted because you're not actually turning it in here, but this just gives you all the steps to get it accomplished. You'll be turning it in with your final composition description. So a video capture is going to be very important and kind of handy to you when showing off your work. The entire purpose of working on these projects was really to build more material for your demo reel and portfolio. And Having a video to show your music working in the game is going to be the best way to demo it. The you have the game applications. Once everything is up and working with Wise, you have the games. They are yours to show off and to distribute. But there's some technical roadblocks when working with the actual game application. Number one, it's a Mac application, so whoever's checking it out has to have a Mac in order to run the application. They have to have a Mac that's strong enough to run the game, which is probably not an issue. They're not really all that powerful of a game that they would need a powerful computer. A lot of very smart people don't like to download files from the internet and run them on their computer. That's probably the biggest one. You can load it up to Dropbox or Google Drive and share it around. You can host it on your website. But a lot of folks don't like to download random applications off the internet and run them on their computer. But those folks don't have any issue with clicking on a link and watching a video that's provided through YouTube or something like that. So it's basically an ease of use issue. Another aspect is there's no guarantee that these games are going to work a day or a week or a month or years from now, mainly because Apple is notorious for updating their operating systems, and software gets kind of left in the dust, and so older software might not be supported by future operating systems. So there's no guarantee how long that will last, but a video will. A video will probably be able to be played for a long time coming, and more than likely YouTube's going to be around for a little while, and having the ability to quickly stream videos is a really kind of a easy feature on the internet. Everybody's lazy on the internet. You can kind of assume that, and all they are interested in is clicking a link and watching a video. Some of the other reasons is with the video, you also give them a guided tour of your game. It's you playing the game. They don't have to actually be any good at video games. You show them exactly the music and sound that you want to show them. They don't get lost in the game. They don't hate your music because they hate the game, or maybe they love the music because they love the game. That's an okay reaction, but you don't want them to hate the music because they don't like playing the game. So there's a couple of different roadblocks, whether it's technical roadblocks or just enjoyment of the game, that you want to be able to create a nice video representation of your work. Then once they watch the video, they might feel more comfortable with downloading the game if they want to check it out a little bit closer. So it's the main focus with these video captures is to not only show them off to the rest of the class, but also to have them for your portfolio, your demo reel, and just add more material overall. So, with this assignment, you get a PDF that goes through step by step of how to set up this video capture. And that looks like this. So there's the actual PDF to, oops, that's not correct. Hold on. I also should announce I have made updated changes, very small changes to a lot of just the naming of stuff in the assignment. So you might want to just go download an updated version of this. So here we go. Week 4 final game captures. That is a PDF, just an overview of the assignment. But this workflow PDF goes through everything step by step. So I'm assuming that you have used QuickTime to do some video capture previously, whether it's capturing your camera, whether it's capturing something on your screen. At some point in a previous class, you have used QuickTime to capture the video. That's fine, but we also want to capture the audio. And QuickTime, by default, has no options to capture audio inside of your computer. For all sorts of copyright reasons, they don't want to give people access to recording anything and everything inside your computer. So you have to find other ways of doing it. We are going to use a program called Loopback. Loopback, it is our audio. It is audio if. It is audio recreated, so it is ours. So we are able to capture it and be able to show it off. Here in the chat, will we lose points if we use week 2 instead of week 1 in the title, since you have it in different in 2 places? No. I've since updated those things, and so I understand that that the naming structure might be a little bit different. So using QuickTime, using Loopback, and the PDF goes through step by step on how things are set up. So you will install Loopback. You can get it at this location. There are other programs out there. Maybe you've used Soundflower before to capture things. Soundflower was very popular on the Mac. It's kind of getting out of date overall. It's not functioning, again, with the new operating systems from Mac. These guys used to make Soundflower for a little while and then made their own version called Loopback. And basically, it's a virtual audio cable. It goes out of one application into another application, just in the same way that you would go out of a guitar into a guitar amp or out of a microphone into a microphone preamp. It just goes out of one application into another. There is a purchased version for $99. You do not need that version. Well, maybe you do. I don't know. Maybe in your own personal use on the computer. But for the purposes of this project, you do not need the full version. You can get the free download. The only limitation there is it starts playing white noise after 15 minutes. So if you need more than 15 minutes to do the video, well, your videos, number one, shouldn't be 15 minutes long, but just getting it set up, if you need more than that, you can shut down the application and launch it again, and you get another 15 minutes. So download that. And when you install it, it looks like this. Maybe. There it is. Well, actually, yours would look like this. So, and this allows you to create a virtual audio cable. Or it actually creates a new audio device in your computer. Right? If I went to audio MIDI setup, it actually creates another interface. And you choose the audio application that you want to record. So I can just go to Angry Bots here and record this. You do not want to mute anything. And you can try checking this box in order to be able to hear what you're actually recording. Then once that is set up, the other thing to notice is that in QuickTime, when you do a new recording, you can select the input, and you now have Loopback audio as an input into QuickTime. So this allows you to play out of the game and into QuickTime. It takes you through the steps and getting it all set up. Then you launch QuickTime. You do a new screen recording to capture your screen. You set up the options. You select Loopback audio. And once you do that and play the game, hello, computer. Once you start doing that and playing the game, where'd it go? There it goes. And actually, no, let me go all the way back here. Way buried down deep is my desktop. Oh, that was what I wanted. There's Angry Birds. There's the game. The directions say something about movie function. Movie options? Movie options? Movie function. I'm not sure where that's referred to. Mute audio sources. Loopback audio. Not sure what that referred to. Oh, options. Yeah. Yeah, that's the options. That's what this is. QuickTime. That's what this little down arrow is next to the recording. Right here. That shows your options. Okay, so now that I have QuickTime, and I have it set to loopback, and I go to my game, and I play my game. Let's see if this actually works. There it goes. You can actually hear or see the meters bouncing up and down here. That way you know the actual audio recording is happening. Let me just see something here. When you say you don't have this down arrow right in here, oh, I didn't have a Dropbox. Huh, I don't know. I've never seen QuickTime without having those audio options there. Yeah, send me a screenshot if you're having that issue. So, all right, once we do a new screen recording, that's where you set the movie options, is that down arrow right there, right next to the record button. Set it to loopback audio. You should see the meters moving. You can either do a full screen recording, or you can do just like click and drag only over the window, whichever works best for you. You probably want to just do it over the window so it doesn't include your desktop. Then what I'm actually interested in, the content of the video is pretty much up to you. I am really grading you on the process. That's the part I'm interested in. The fact that you've done this video recording means that you've created the music, created the sound effects. We had the opportunity for peer review. Yeah, you can revise and change anything after feedback. You implemented it into the game. You tested it out, make sure it worked. You then did a video capture, and that video capture represents that entire process. What you actually capture, how you play the game, that part's really more up to you. What do you want to show off? How do you want to show off your music working? I'm not going to count every single music file or every single sound effect because I know that you don't ultimately have control over it. Now, I'm listening for most of them, but like you have 3 intros, 3 main loops, 3 endings. There's maybe a chance that you can't get that third ending to play. You can get 6 or 7 out of the, or 7 or 8 of the 9 files to play, but that last file doesn't play. And for whatever reason, it's just randomly chosen. So we don't want these videos to go on forever. The instructions say no more than 2 minutes. And so, so if you don't get all of the sounds captured, that's fine. Just making sure that you're showing off your game in its best light. You can work between windowed mode and full screen mode. If you, when you launch the game, you've probably seen these options here. Windowed means that it'll be in a window. Uncheck this and it will be full screen. Most of the time you can use the default settings. They'll work just fine for you. Then you hit record. You play through the game the best way that showcases your music. Make sure to demonstrate all the music and sound design. Don't just stand there, basically. Video capture should be no longer than 2 minutes. Actually, that points out something else. Don't necessarily play the game like you're playing to win or beat it. Because sometimes I see videos where it starts and they do well all the way through. They never die, and then the video ends. So I never see any of the endings. Or they only die once. And you only hear one of the intros and endings. So watch out for that. Die a couple of times. Trigger all the sounds that you can, even both in Angry Bots and in 2D platformer. Quit the game. Stop the recording. Name it according to the assignment. And then please, please, please watch the video. If any... it says here 60 seconds. No, if they're within 60 seconds, that's fine. I'm just worried about things that go on for 3 or 4 or 5 minutes long. Please watch the video, because if anything, if anybody has any issues or gets any points taken off, it's typically because they didn't watch the video. Either it's completely silent, or they're recording from the internal microphone, and you hear them kind of clicking around in the background, and sometimes you hear their dog barking or their family in the background. Just use Loopback to record everything digitally, and double check the video before you send it off. Other optional tips: clear off your desktop if you're incorporating the desktop in the video. You're doing a full screen recording, then you want to make sure it's just as clean and tidy as possible. You might want to hide the dock. You just don't want any other random stuff to get in the way and have people judging you on the content of your desktop or your dock. If you can try recording in a higher resolution. But if the video kind of skips around, or you're having any issues making the capture work, you can also try a lower resolution recording overall. You're going to post up the videos on YouTube and then submit those. You're going to submit those to the 2D platform. To the composition description assignments. So this assignment really isn't like all that involved once you get everything up and working. Once the technical side is worked out, getting Loopback to work, getting the video capture to work, then it's really just playing the game and showing it off. So make sure everything's set up properly, do the video captures, and then you'll be on to the composition descriptions. So that's final game capture. Share your final game captures. There's another assignment that's just a discussion post for everybody to post up their work, so everybody in the class can check out the final version of it. It's always good to see everybody else's hard work there and check out yours compared to everybody else's. So there are the two kind of main projects here, or the main submissions or assignments in week 4 are the 10-question composition descriptions. And these are set up as a test, but they aren't a study for it test because you have all the answers. They are 10 questions on your composition. And so you'll just give me information. They're basically ways that I can collect information and get a summary of your projects. So the first one here, provide a YouTube link to your 2D platformer game video. So the video that you created in the final capture, you uploaded it to YouTube, post up that YouTube link here, and please make sure that it is set to public. Its next sentence here says, a missing YouTube video or a missing audio track renders the whole submission ungradable and will receive a 0 for the whole assignment. If I don't have the video, if I can't watch the final version of it, then I can't grade it. So that also goes with the videos being private, which means I'll reply back to you and say, hey, make sure that these aren't private so I can actually not give you a 0. So double check it. The best way I always do this is go into incognito mode in your browser and try to log in or try to access that video link. If it works in here, then it's going to work on my side. A lot of people say, hey, it works just fine on my computer. And that's true because you're logged in on your computer on YouTube. So make sure or log out of YouTube and check the links. Okay. Next, session screenshot. Give me a screenshot of your DAW session of the actual, like the production session, the MIDI and the composition. It doesn't matter which DAW you used for the compositions. Just like to give get a view of everybody's kind of workflow here. Melody and harmony. What key is your composition in? What scales and modes did you use for the melody? What's your chord progression? Give me information about the melodic and harmonic approach that you used. Rhythm. What is the tempo of your composition? What is your time signature? Just so I can get some basic rhythmic information. List the instrumentation that you used in the intro, the main loop, and the ending cues. Name the synths and sample library sources for all tracks. And if it's different in different cues, then list out different instrumentation. Please give me the sources of the instruments too, not just the fact that sometimes I used an electric piano, and I used a drum kit, and I used a trumpet. And I think, well, yes, I can hear that you used all 3 of those instruments and know what they sound like, but I have no clue where you got them from and how they were created. Think about it as if you had to tell somebody else how to build your session. Like if you just sent them MIDI and they needed to load up the instruments, or you sent them a DAW session, they need to know what instruments they need to have so that they can work on it on their computer. Intro cues. Provide screenshots of the bounced audio from your 3 intro files. Re-import your bounced intro files back into a Logic session. Double check them, look at the waveforms, listen to them, double check their naming, make sure that they are formatted properly. Take a screenshot of all 3 of them and upload it here. Same thing for your main loops. Make sure, listen to them, look at the mix, look at the file names, make sure they loop properly, just make sure everything is formatted correctly. The ending cues, take a screenshot of all 3 of those. Ending cue audio needs to reach silence, so make sure that they all hit silence before the file gets cut off. Then you will order all of your files. You have intro 1 to main loop 2 to ending 3. Basically, this just rearranges everything. Intro 1 to main loop 2 to ending 3. Then it goes intro 2 to main loop 3 to ending 1. Intro 3 to main loop 1 to ending 2. And it kind of lists them all out there. Just basically put them all back to back in different combinations so that, and then comment. There's a second question here that says, listen to each track and how the music transitions from one cue to the next. Describe what you hear. Does the intensity of the music build up? Are the same instruments heard through all the different cues? Just provide me information and a kind of insight to your composition. And then provide a mix screenshot. You will take play through kind of the loudest portion of your mix and give me a screenshot showing both peak and RMS, so I can get a sense of the average level and the peak level. Your Angry Bots composition description is very much the similar setup. You'll provide the video capture, the screenshot of your session, give me information about the melody, harmony, and rhythm, information about the instruments you used along with their sources, Then screenshots of your ambient queue, your 3 action queues, your 3 stinger files, layer them all together and comment about how do they play together, any clashing rhythms or harmonies, and then you'll provide a screenshot at the end. So 10 questions that summarize your compositions. Probably should make sure you get the video captures done earlier in the week. Gives you time to finish out all of the information on these. All right, that should be most everything. Let's see, I moved away from the slides here. So final game capture, 2D platformer game composition description, Angry Bots composition description. That should round it out. So again, we listened to submissions from week 3. We'll watch some videos from Angry Bots and also listen to some chiptune compositions. Then talked about your final video capture and the composition descriptions here. Oh, and also went through a couple of wise troubleshooting tips. If you have any questions, I'll stick around towards the end of class here and can answer any questions you might have. And if you're watching this on the archive, send me a message if you already haven't. And yeah, we can also work there. All right. Thank you very much, and I will see you next time.